ever did it was fly.
Okay, well, congratulations on. So you're confident as you close for the evening or stay up all the rest of the morning or whatever, you think that President Trump will be in the inauguration again come January?
I do. I feel like that the votes are just going to be there in Michigan and Pennsylvania.
And how did he do it, Mr. Cahey? What is it that resonated, it would appear, with enough of the American public to get him over the line, in your view?
Oh, the last when that debate was over, and Joe Biden said he wouldn't rule out lockdowns, and Trump said open up the schools and open up the businesses. That's where America is. I mean, America is. We've got over 68% of the public is wear the mask, wash your hands, social distance, but no more lockdowns, no exceptions, no way, no how.
Thanks for taking the call, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Robert Cahaley, congratulations, you're founder and chief pollster for the Trafalgar Group, which, as it stands at the moment, they absolutely called it in 2016, and it looks like they are on the money currently this time out. 9:33, breakfast with me, Nick Ferrara, here on LBC News. Simon Conway.
President Trump says he will go to the Supreme Court to ask it to stop votes being counted in the US election. The Republican candidate claims there has been major fraud in postal voting, but says as far as he's concerned, he's already won. Democrat Joe Biden is also insisting he is on track to come out on top. The election has been much closer than many had expected, and some states, including Pennsylvania, still haven't declared. The Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, has told LBC the second national lockdown in England was ordered reluctantly. MPs will vote later on whether to approve the coronavirus restrictions, which will come into force tomorrow. Marks & Spencer has fallen to a loss for the first time in its 94 years as a public company. The retailers reported a pre-tax loss of £87 million for the 6 months to the end of September after its stores were forced to close due to COVID-19. And the weather, most parts dry with light winds and plenty of sunshine, turning cloudy and windy for northern Scotland later with some rain, a high of 11 degrees.
LBC. Sir Dave King, who was Government Chief Scientific Advisor, now chairs the independent SAGE Group. If your characterisation is right, and that 10 billion has been spaffed on a useless system, wrong decisions were made, and countless thousands of people have died, some people might wonder if that's not almost a criminal mistake.
Yes, and I fully appreciate that is the implication of what I'm saying.
Eddie Mayer, this afternoon from 4.
With O2 Business, who offer flexible solutions to help manage business uncertainty.
LBC.
At Lloyds Bank, we're by the side of all our customers, whoever they are, whatever their situation. From young couples trying to make ends meet, to the parents unexpectedly welcoming their children home, to those getting to grips with the new normal. We are here to support you, offering useful, practical advice to help you feel in control. For more help, visit us online or speak to us over the phone or in branch. Lloyds Bank, by your side.
M means your heart never failing to skip a beat every time the engine awakes. M means forever looking forward to the road less traveled. M means every journey starts within and it has an open end. BMW M, the most powerful letter in the world. Discover the BMW M range today.
At Morrison's, selected tubs of chocolate are any two for £7. Choose from Celebrations, Heroes, Quality Street and Roses. Morrison's, making it cost less. Majority of stores and online, subject to availability, 600 grams to 650 grams, £3.99 each, ends 8th of November.
I'm Jose Mourinho. I know a thing or two about being special. Tall Swedish strikers with little ponytails, special. Winning the daily jackpot and penny power games, not special.
Understood, Jose. Yes, someone wins an average £40,000 jackpot every single day. So if you win, don't think you're special. Daily Jackpots by Paddy Power Games. Jackpots must be awarded by 11 p.m. and vary from day to day. Jackpot is shared with other operators. Available on selected games. T's and C's at paddypower.com. You can just begambleware.org.
Hi, I'm Tov, and that's the sound of Deli Kitchen's Italian-inspired sliced focaccia after it's been pan-toasted with parma ham, rockets, tomato and cheese. Melty. And this is the sound of me enjoying Deli Kitchen's amazingly soft Greek-style flatbread stuffed with roasted veg, tzatziki and halloumi. Posh or not, Deli Kitchen's flatbreads take mealtimes to the next level. Pick up Deli Kitchen at your favourite supermarket.
TrustedPPE.co.uk, supplying protective equipment for home and at work. Order before 4 p.m. weekdays for same-day dispatch. Rated excellent on Trustpilot.
Everyone's heard of MyPillow. After all, they've sold 48 million MyPillows worldwide. But here's our best offer ever. Buy one MyPillow, get the second MyPillow absolutely free. Get the most comfortable night's sleep or your money back with our 60-day guarantee. Plus, MyPillow is made in the UK and comes with a 10-year warranty. It's our best offer ever. Buy one, get one free. Visit mypillow.co.uk and use promo code SLEEP.
MyPillow. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Your views on who the better man is for Britain in a moment. Terry Paul, come to you, but let's get some more informed input to help inform our conversation in a few moments' time. Turn to Conservative MP, former Defence Secretary, former International Trade Secretary, Dr. Liam Fox, who joins me now. Dr. Fox, how much of a challenge is it for the United Kingdom and indeed the world in that we don't know who's the President of the United States? Good morning.
Good morning. Well, the President, of course, will be the President.
Right.
Until the inauguration in January. And we've been here before, of course. In 2000 we had this with the hanging Chads, if you remember, which also ended up in the Supreme Court. So there is precedent for this, and there are, of course,
not healthy though, is it?
Well, it's not helpful, but that's the electoral system, and it's also the will of the people. I mean, it's clearly a very close election. Clearly, the American public are relatively evenly divided, certainly in terms of the electoral college, as this goes on, and it's difficult to know who will win either. Joe Biden or President Trump could win this race. If Arizona flips to the Democrats, as it looks that it might, then it really leaves Pennsylvania, Michigan and Wisconsin to decide the election for the American people.
Who might be better for the British people, Dr. Fox?
The relationship between the UK and the US is too important for it to be determined by personalities or parties, and in this country both Labour and Conservative governments have been willing to work with either Republican or Democrat administrations in the United States, and that's how it should be. And I think that we should, especially at a time like this, leave that decision in the hands of the American people, and I think give them the respect about making their own democratic decision.
Lastly, in a post-Brexit Britain, what will the Prime Minister need to do to ensure President Biden or President Trump is in our corner?
Well, again, the relationship between the US and the UK is largely, when we talk about the special relationship, the phrase was coined and used for the first time by Winston Churchill in his speech in full, which was probably more famous than Curtin. But he spoke there as a wartime Prime Minister who understood it was the defence and security relationship that was the bedrock of that through today. And we've had American presidents come in and they've looked for other best friends in Europe, but when push comes to shove, it's that security relationship and the sharing of that with the UK, which is unique in the world, that has always kept us closer. So I think the factors that have maintained that special relationship for all these decades, irrespective of who's in number 10 or who's in the White House, will continue.
Liam Fox, Conservative people in Somerset. You served as Defence Secretary and International Trade Secretary. Again, coming to your views in a moment, but one other political heavyweight voice just to factor in. Let's get straight to Alan Johnson, of course, a former Labour MP, former Health Secretary and former Home Secretary. He's had more jobs than Jose Mourinho and was even more successful, and joins me now. You're not a serving MP, Alan, so you can look and tell me what's actually gone on in the United States and what you hope happens for UK PLC. Alan, good morning.
Good morning, Nick. It is too tight to call. I fear the ego has landed. I've got a funny feeling Trump's going to pull this off. But as far as we're concerned, I suppose it's all about the trade deal. You know, Britain will be keen to do a trade deal with the US, whichever president is in position. Trump is very much America first. He's not delivered anything but fine words. He actually put a 60% levy on Scotch single malt Scotch and Irish whiskey. Is how much he loves Britain. Whereas I suppose with Biden, we're back to Obama's back of the queue, in terms of he wants to establish a relationship with the EU much more than Trump does. And if there's a trade deal to be done, he'd rather do it with the EU and maybe Britain afterwards.
Going back to your nifty summation, the ego has landed. If you're right, and certainly it would seem to be going in his favour, what do politicians in the UK need to learn about that?
Well, I think Liam, I just heard Liam Fox, he's right. I mean, the special relationship is really all about security and defence. It's an incredibly close relationship on counter-terrorism and all of that. That won't change, whoever the president is. And I think now, I suppose, we're used to dealing with Trump, with all his, idiosyncrasies, if you like. And I guess in number 10, it's kind of better the devil they know. For the country, I'd rather see Trump as a one-term president. But I guess for government, is what you're used to.
And lastly, a question I put to Dr. Fox. How much of a challenge is it for politicians around the world? We do have a serving president, but it is now in abeyance and it will go to the courts for probably the next 4 or 5 weeks.
I don't think that's good. There is a president. He will stay there until and unless he's defeated. But it just adds to that uncertainty. There's the uncertainty about COVID. There's the terrible, terrible time we're going through with the pandemic. There's uncertainty over here about the EU. So much uncertainty, and uncertainty is not good for international relations. It's not good for trade. It's not good for people's security.
At Waitrose, we don't cut corners, but we do cut prices. We've reduced prices on hundreds of Waitrose favourites that you buy most often, such as higher welfare chicken and outdoor bred pork, delicious prepared meals, fresh fruit and organic vegetables, and store-cupboard staples like our fair trade tea and essential household cleaning items. So next time you visit Waitrose, you'll get the quality you'd expect at a new, lower price.
Selected lines and stores, subject to availability. Prices may vary in the Channel Islands, Little Waitrose and concessions.
If you're wondering what you can do with your pension pot, this could be how you're feeling. That's the sound of worry and uncertainty, but you could be hearing this. Let's call it the sound of clarity, which you can get from PensionWise, a government service providing free, impartial guidance. In just an hour, you'll get clarity on all your options so everything feels less and a little more. If you're over 50, visit pensionwise.gov.uk or call 0800 144 8944 and discover the power of an hour.
Everyone likes more of what they like more football, more chocolate. Gravy and peas, please. More for your money. The Ford Upgrade and Save More promotion ends 30th of November. Instead of a £1,000 upgrade saving, you can now enjoy up to a £2,000 upgraded saving off the recommended retail price across the Ford range. And yes, you can still get 3 months deferred payment and 0% APR finance on selected vehicles financed with Ford Credit. What more do you want? A tap dance? Visit Ford.co.uk and save even more.
Exclusions and deposit restrictions apply. Combined promotions available until 30th of November 2020 at participating dealers. Free post Ford Credit.
At Curry's PC World, we're always ready to help you get the tech you need. From Monday to Wednesday, we're extending our opening hours so you can shop safely at a time that suits you. And we're always ready with our zero-contact order and collect service, walk up or drive-through. Then there's Shop Live, providing expert, online, face-to-face advice. We're supporting our colleagues so they can support you, so you have the tech you need to be ready for anything.
Curry's PC World. Go online to find out local store opening hours in your area.
Ancestry is making millions of UK wartime records free to explore until Remembrance Sunday. Who will you remember? Discover your family's wartime story. Learn about the part they played and ensure their memory lives on. Bring your backstory to life with Ancestry. Registration required.
At Morrison's, selected tubs of chocolate are any two for £7. Choose from Celebrations, Heroes, Quality Street and Roses. Morrison's, making it cost less. Majority of stores and online, subject to availability, 600 grams to 650 grams, $3.99 each.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. Severe delays continue on the M1 southbound to junction 11 at Dunstable. There are delays of at least half an hour, and that's because of an accident where only one lane is open. In Kent on the M25, clockwise queues up to junction 5 at the M26, and that's because a van broke down earlier. Also in Manchester, delays continue on the A57M, that's the Mancunian Way. Westbound delays to the Cambridge Street junction, and also following an accident. In London, in Twickenham, the Chertsey Road was closed westbound earlier at the Whitton Road roundabout. It's just reopened, but I'm afraid there are still delays on the approach.
Okay, you're listening to LBC. 9:48 is the time. We just had a slight bump in the road. Let's go back to our conversation about the problems that the pollsters have had. We talked about the success of the Trafalgar Group. LBC's political editor Theo Usherwood looks at a troubling tale of the tape for polling companies down the years.
There are new numbers on the race for the White House, with a Fox poll showing the president trailing Biden by 8 points now, putting him in a weaker position than he was in 2016, the day before Election Day, especially when it comes to support from some key groups that voted for him the last time.
Right now, Joe Biden enjoys 6.5-point lead over President Trump. But I want you to take a look at the average of polls. The Trafalgar poll is up by 2 for Trump. That's an outlier. Everything else is between 7 and 10 points up for Biden.
Whatever the result, the pollsters have had another nightmare with the 2020 presidential election. Most were predicting a Joe Biden landslide. And it is clear now that even if the Democrat candidate wins, it will only be by a narrow margin. The problem for the pollsters is that it all feels a bit too much like deja vu from 2016.
So we've just seen live pictures of President Obama campaigning for Hillary Clinton in Ohio. Now, Moody's says the president's high approval ratings are one of the factors that will put Hillary Clinton into the White House. The Moody's model is predicting that Hillary Clinton will take the key swing states of Florida, Ohio, Colorado, and Pennsylvania. We showed you them earlier in the program. And they've correctly predicted the winner of every presidential contest since 1980.
Our new NBC News Survey Monkey poll is out today. It puts Hillary Clinton up by 10 points over Donald Trump. And this is not the first poll since the conventions to give Clinton a double-digit lead. This is actually the fourth. 4 polls that have Clinton up by more than 10 points, or at least 10 points. Her lead is reaching levels we just didn't see in the past few campaigns.
The pollsters getting it wrong is not just a US phenomenon. It's happened in the UK too. None of them predicted a Conservative overall majority in 2015. Most predicted Theresa May would win by a landslide in 2017, only to see a hung parliament. And then there was the big mistake with the EU referendum.
We now expect that the United Kingdom will remain part of the European Union. Now, it's 52% remain, 48% leave. So it's still close, and it's still too early to know definitely. But based on the figures that we're seeing, based on the trends that have occurred, and based on historical precedent, we think the Remain are in the strongest position.
The polls are now closed across the United Kingdom, where voters weighed in on whether Britain should, in fact, exit the European Union. A YouGov online survey, which asked UK citizens how they voted today, was just released. It shows 52% voted Remain, while 48% voted Leave.
It's difficult to diagnose exactly why the polling companies continue to get it wrong. But one theory is that Trump voters, like Brexit voters, are shy. When a pollster rings them up and asks how they're going to vote, they feel reticent about giving their opinion. And this leads to skewed predictions, a mistake the pollsters seem apparently unable to fix.
Theo Usherwood reporting and picking up on that point. That's what we heard from the founder of the Trafalgar Group, his colleagues asked, who do you think your neighbours might be voting for? Maybe something to be learnt from that. Paul in Ealing, if you'd had a vote, Paul, which way would it have gone? Good morning to you.
Well, it would have gone Biden this time, just because of how Trump's presidency's unfolded.
You say this time. I sense 4 years ago you would have voted for the man who is currently president. Is that right?
No, I absolutely wouldn't. I realised as soon as I said it that it
okay. Okay, well, let me swing it round again then. Yours is, and you have every right to be like this, sir, but yours is a rather coloured vote. You don't like the man, which is absolutely all right, but you don't like Trump.
Well, it doesn't matter whether he's Trump or whether it's Joe Boggs. The fact that he's doing what he does, and I still can't believe the fact that I've got 2 daughters. The fact that he grabs people by
okay, and I'll ask you not to say I know the word, but okay, so we know where we're going. Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
But just as a man, as a person, and as a politician, I just think it's all. Even what he's doing now. Say he did win. What he's doing now, just throwing coal onto the fire, it's disgusting.
But if you look at where the projections are going, if someone held my feet to the flame in 6 minutes when I yield to James O'Brien, I'd say it probably is going his way, Paul.
Well, maybe it is, but maybe it's not. I mean, that's immaterial. It's his response to the fact that it's not finished yet, and he thinks, well, I'm in the lead, we should just scrap everything else. It's just so unpresidential, and it's against everything that America was founded on.
Paul, I hear what you say on that. Thank you. Please excuse me. It's to get other people involved. Terry and Brent. Terry, had you had a vote, which way would it have gone?
Well, I've had a bit of a brain teaser because I was speaking to my friend in North Carolina for the last hour.
Right.
And he told me that he absolutely hates Trump, and he was undecided up until about, the last 72 hours. And he did a comparison, and he said that he was going to vote for Trump, even though he hated him, because, one, Biden was going to send troops back into Afghanistan. Biden was going to get closer to the EU rather than the UK, and Biden was going to get closer to China. Which I said, well, you think people are vilified, but when you pull the curtain back, the reality is totally different. So I was just thought that'd be an interesting insight. That's how
Terry,
a lot of Americans are thinking.
How is this all down to an amazing marketing job that Trump and his team have pulled off then?
Well, in terms of his personal appeal to the population, obviously, my friend said, he said, a lot of his friends, they hate Trump with a vengeance. When they actually pull back the curtain and look at what's actually happening, Biden is a lot worse to them. And that's why they voted for Trump, and that's what's happening. And he said a lot of Hispanics are voting for Trump.
Well, you've almost anticipated my next question, because I think we can now confirm that the reason he's got Florida is because of Hispanic and because of black and because of the elderly vote.
We have to understand the irony in these situations, and when you look into things a little bit deeper and don't listen to what's been bandied about in a lot of the media and whatever the pollsters are saying, you strip it back on what common people are actually feeling. I was a bit shocked, but what he actually said made sense in terms of his motivations, and that's why Trump is going to win, and Trump is going to be in the White House.
Well, is he? Because it might all come down to the lawyers. Terry, thank you for that. And on that subject, throughout the campaign trail, Donald Trump has claimed he's ready to take legal action over this mail-in vote, or postal vote as we call it, and he and his opponent have hired armies of lawyers. Some saying this is, and it would seem now will go, certainly to the courts, federal courts, if not the Supreme Court. Well, some of us, of course, have been here before. LBC's James Goodison takes a look back at the first time that happened in what, until today, was one of the closest elections in the US of all time.
Stay with us. We're about to take you on an exciting and bumpy ride.
Decision 2000. Election night. The 2000 election was the closest contested race in modern US history, pitting the firstborn son of a former president, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton's vice president, Al Gore. The campaign was tense, and it all came to a head on the 7th of November, when Americans went to the polls. Throughout the night, news stations flipped from Gore to Bush and back to Gore. As the states headed towards the morning, Gore found himself on 255 votes, Bush on 246, both short of that 270 benchmark to win the presidency.
A stunned silence has fallen over the crowd in Austin. Vice President Al Gore has called Governor Bush and retracted his concession because he is now of the mind that things could be turning yet again in Florida.
So it all came down to Florida, which carried 25 electoral votes. Simply put, whoever won Florida won the presidency. Those watching throughout the night, hoping for clarity, were left disappointed. In fact, it would be more than a month before a winner was declared. Accounts in Florida the next day found that George Bush had a 900-vote lead. Recounts after recounts ensued until the Supreme Court stepped in.
I'll make it quick and simple to beginning. The Supreme Court of the United States has reversed the decision of the Florida Supreme Court on 3 separate issues that were before that court. But get it in your mind, first of all, the Supreme Court of the United States has reversed the orders of the Florida Supreme Court on a very narrow majority, 5 justices to 4.
The court largely split down partisan lines, ruling that recounts violated the Equal Protection Clause in the 14th Amendment. Bush was declared winner, and Gore became the first candidate in over a century to lose the election despite winning the popular vote.
Let there be no doubt. While I strongly disagree with the court's decision, I accept it. I accept the finality of this outcome, which will be ratified next Monday in the Electoral College. And tonight, for the sake of our unity as a people and the strength of our democracy, I offer my concession.
This was the closest election in modern America, and after all the hoo-ha over recounts, it's said that Al Gore lost by 1 vote in the end. The Supreme Court.
James Goodison reporting there for LBC, and it looks as though, of course, it might well come down to that. And you have to say that sort of magnanimous tone that was struck by one of the candidates there, Al Gore, with the way these two men are going at each other. And we reflect at the 5 hours it's been my privilege to take you through this with. Remember, and there is a difference. There is a distinctive difference here. With the challenger, Joe Biden said, we're going to win, and the President, Donald Trump, saying, we have won. Much as I think we said at the conclusion of yesterday's show, we probably started saying right at the top of this one, this, again, is not actually going to be decided tonight. It starts in the federal court. We did our best. James O'Brien's waiting the other side of the museum. I'm with you tomorrow morning from 7.
Thank you, Nick, and where even to begin? I suppose in normal times you were saying that the speech Joe Biden gave a couple of hours ago sounded like the speech of a man who thinks he's going to win, whereas the speech Donald Trump gave, despite claiming that he had won, sounded like the speech of a man who didn't think he was going to win. And here is something really strange, because if you think about it, the prospect, and it's a notion that he's clearly floated, the prospect that Trump would somehow seek to deny democracy, to deprive millions upon millions of Americans of their legally cast vote, means that an honest victory, a straight victory for Donald Trump, has suddenly become the second worst scenario that could unfold in the next few days.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation, this is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 10 o'clock, Donald Trump is threatening to take the US election results to the Supreme Court, calling for counting to be stopped. The president has accused his opponents of a fraud on the American public, but hasn't provided any evidence. With the result on a knife edge, he's claimed victory, despite several states not declaring a winner yet.
We will win this, and as far as I'm concerned, we already have won. And I want to thank all of our support. I want to thank all of the people that worked with us.
Joe Biden's campaign has described the president's claims about fraud as outrageous, unprecedented and incorrect. Earlier, the Democrat said his campaign was on track to win the election, urging his supporters not to lose faith. States like Michigan and Pennsylvania aren't expected to declare for some time. Dr. Derek Bolton, a lecturer in politics at Bath University, has told LBC he's not surprised by the response from Donald Trump.
I think we've seen the Trump campaign beginning to prepare their kind of response, which was to begin to try to cast doubts on these large mail-in ballots that are going to lean heavily Democratic in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. And kind of what we're waiting to see now is if those mail-in ballots are enough or break enough in Biden's favor to overcome his current deficits in those states.
The Foreign Secretary, Dominic Raab, has told us he has confidence in the US electoral system to produce a fair result, but his Labour shadow, Lisa Nandy, says it's imperative that all votes are counted.
It's shocking, but not perhaps that surprising to have a presidential candidate who is shouldn't would be counted. I think America is a very divided country, and that there was always going to be divisions on display in this election. That's why it's absolutely essential that every vote has to be counted.
In other news this morning, the second national coronavirus lockdown for England will be voted on in the Commons later. If the proposals are passed, as expected, non-essential shops, leisure and entertainment venues will be closed for 4 weeks from tomorrow. Pubs, bars, restaurants will also shut except for takeaways and deliveries. Police colleagues will pay their respects later at the funeral of an officer killed in the line of duty in South London. Met Police Sergeant Matt Ratner was shot at Croydon Custody Centre in September as he prepared to search a handcuffed suspect. Commissioner Dame Cressida Dick will be among the speakers at the service being held in Sussex. It's 57.81. The pound buys $1.29 and €1.10. And the weather, a high of 11 degrees. From Global's newsroom, I'm Simon Conway.
From the case files of Miss Maureen 118212.
You know, the life of a telephone detective is never dull. 1 minute you might be called by a lady from Luton looking for a lighting shop. The next it might be a gent from Darrow who just needs a jeweller. Whatever the number you need is Maureen 118212.
Maureen 118212. Calls cost £2.50 per call plus 75p a minute with a minimum 1 minute charge plus your phone company's access charge. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with James O'Brien.
Good morning. 3 minutes after 10 is the time, and somewhat oddly, we know about as much as we knew when I bid you farewell yesterday about who's going to be the next president of the United States, or rather whether there is going to be a new president of the United States. I don't know about you. I know some of you are kind enough to think that I can serve some comforting purpose on moments like this, but I'm never quite sure that I can. I've discovered, to my surprise in recent months actually, that I now expect the worst to happen, and the reason for that is very simply that what I think is the worst, things that I find repellent, like lies, most obviously, and race. Separating children from their parents and then losing track of the parents, and various other what I consider to be egregious offences, utter failures ever to criticise Vladimir Putin as he continues to corrupt the entire world. I find repellent, other people find attractive, and until you can conundrum, the rest is noise, isn't it? And so I'm perhaps not as surprised as you may be, or some people may be, to see that ostensibly quite largely for Joe Biden disappear overnight. It's still too close to call. I think the speeches are interesting. If you're following Wisconsin very closely, and I'm going to apologise in advance for not being psychic, because we are now in a scenario where almost as soon as a sentence has finished coming out of my mouth, what was true at the beginning of the sentence is no longer true. But Wisconsin, certainly before the microphone was turned on this morning, Wisconsin was moving in Joe Biden's direction, which would, I think, leave him needing just one of those 3 states, and that, it is being suggested, is why Donald Trump is keen for the counting to stop, and that is going to be an entry point today, because regardless of whether you find what I find repellent as I find it, the idea that eventually we'll reach a point where everyone, I suspect, has disappeared and dissolved without us really noticing over the last few years. The point at which you would imagine there would be a very, very, very broad consensus is never going to come, because he's done today already something that I can't quite. It's like Lisa and Andy said a moment ago to Nick. It's shocking but not surprising. He's done something that even his supporters said he wouldn't do. His closest supporters said, no, he's just messing with you. He's playing psychological games. The idea that he, in campaign mode, would ever dispute the result or seek to negate votes that have been cast in advance by post, then he did it. I mean, just listen to this. I mean, this would be, if we still believed in traffic stopping moments, if we still believed that there is a point at which the evidence becomes so complete that you can no longer ignore it, this would have been that moment. But, and you might not thank me for this, I don't believe that anymore. I now get how terrible things happen throughout history. They don't happen by accident. They happen because people think they want them, until the moment that they happen. And then they carry on claiming that they wanted them all along, and then slowly it begins to fall away. And that, for me, is where we are today. So here is the President of the United States of America this morning, on the morning of a general election count. Here he is, essentially denigrating democracy.
Millions and millions of people voted for us tonight, and a very sad group of people is trying to disenfranchise that group of people, and we won't stand for it. We will not stand for it. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election. So our goal now is to ensure the integrity for the good of this nation. This is a very big moment. This is a major fraud in our nation. We want the law to be used in a proper manner. So we'll be going to the U.S. Supreme Court. We want all voting to stop. We don't want them to find any ballots at 4 o'clock in the morning and add them to the list, okay?
Hello, mate. What's happening? Wait, you can't get out now, mate. I think you'd be allowed to fly. What? That way is closed. They're actually closing the airport. Keep the airport open then. Oh. Yeah. Mate, innit, eh? Yeah. I didn't think I'd see you this year. Yeah, I think you got till June, haven't you? Isn't it? Yeah, what's that? Yeah, I know, mate. Is that IA or whatever it is to do with Brexit then? Ah, right. Really? I know, mate. I know. Yeah. Who'd have? I mean, I did say there'd be a civil war at some point. I mean, if we get through this and it doesn't kick off in the UK, that's it. Game over, because you know this is such an extreme catalyst. Do you remember I said to you there would be a civil war in the UK and there would be a catalyst, but I don't know what it would be. But nobody's going to take that visa up, are they? I mean, it's ridiculous, the visa rated. Well, they're not going to, are they? Yeah. Gary was telling me that your mate, was it Spanky, come over to the UK? Working with you there, is he? Good. Oh. Doing your website? I've got the impression you'd find it. Yeah, but if he's working in your... Well, on a plus note, mate, at least it's nice and sunny here in Malta. I'm just driving along Streamer. Yeah, she's fine, mate. Symptoms, and the symptoms lack of taste, and she was diagnosed positive, but nothing at all. I mean, she got mild asthma. She's had it all her life, you know. She doesn't take Ventolin regularly, but she got another Ventolin just in case she needed it. But honestly, mate, no problem at all, you know. And now she's now negative, and you know, I mean, she got through it, you know. No real to speak of, no serious implications for her whatsoever, none, zero, nada. Yeah, suppose not, mate. We were very, very careful. We, you know, throughout that period, we didn't contact with her at all, and it was a week before when she realised it was positive, saw her, and you know, none of us have got it or have indeed had it. But then again, you see, I'm convinced, and Claudia's convinced as well, that we had it in December, because we were really sick in December. Yeah, well, I mean, the trouble with me is that I'm a touch overweight, I'm diabetic, and it's age. No, I will not allow any corrections on a Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? And you're a cunt. Oh, okay, I'll save it in the phone. Alright, mate. Ta-ta!
That suits you. We're always ready with our zero contact order and collect service, walk up or drive through. Then there's Shop Live, providing expert, online, face-to-face advice. We're supporting our colleagues so they can support you, so you have the tech you need to be ready for anything.
Curry's PC World. Go online to find out local store opening hours in your area.
At the Halifax, we know that catching up and checking in on each other has never been more important. So when our customers couldn't come into a Halifax branch, we picked up the phone and gave them a call.
In fact, this year we've made over 250,000 wellbeing calls to customers for a natter and a catch-up, just to see if they're doing okay. Halifax, it's a people thing.
At Morrison's, selected tubs of chocolate are only two for £7. Choose from Celebrations, Heroes, Quality Street and Roses. Morrison's, making it cost less. Majority of stores and online, subject to availability, 600 grams to 650 grams, $3.99 each, ends 8th of November.
UK employers. The way you hire from the EU is changing from the 1st of January 2021. To hire anyone new from outside the UK, you'll need to register as a licensed sponsor. Getting a license normally takes 8 weeks, and fees apply. New employees from outside the UK will also need to meet language, job and salary requirements. Find out everything you need to know about the UK's points-based immigration system at gov.uk/hiring from the EU.
Hey Harry. Hello mate.
Well, that'll
Set
fuck
smart
Uber, won't it?
TV to record the football later. You gotta be joking that you ain't got a blooming clue. But I tell you what, if you want to chuck a few quid on it, your best bet is to try that Bet Victor app. Even I'm a whiz on that. Listen, I've got a little tip for you, and you didn't hear this from me. Oh, that'll be Sandra with the shopping. Sorry mate, I've got a dash.
Listen to Harry and make your best bet with Bet Victor. 18 plus, please gamble responsibly.
Son, seen the remote?
Leading Britain's conversation. LBC with James O'Brien.
90 minutes after 10, the man who would once have been described as the leader of the free world has revealed a desire to deny millions of Americans of their democratic right to vote. And you know, one of the weird things, and listen, I'm not an expert on anything, but American politics is an area in which I need your help and guidance quite often. But I think that there is a Republican in the states that don't start counting the postal votes, the absentee votes, until the ballots have shut. I think that those decisions were taken by Republican state Supreme Courts. So, you know, it's all upside down. And Trump's desire to stop counting those votes suggests, good God, I'm guarding against optimism of any kind. It suggests that he doesn't like what he's hearing from his people, but who the hell knows? You know, having spent much of this year espousing the importance of those three little words, I don't know. I be careful what you wish for. This is I don't know on an industrial scale. Let's get to the phones, and I hope you'll join in today. I really do. 0345 60609713 is the number you need. We'll also need to talk about how Britain should respond. I'm not suggesting you should ever feel sorry for Dominic Raab, except of course for the many obvious reasons, but the British Foreign Secretary having to respond on the hoof to a man who may still be the President of America next year, essentially denigrating democracy itself on live television is tricky. Holy moly. Daniel's in Derby. Daniel, what would you like to say?
Hi James. So I've sort of got into American politics recently, and I think that
you chose your moment, didn't you?
I can't deal with British politics at the moment too much.
Frying pan and fire springs to mind, but you crack on.
So yeah, I think that the Supreme Court ultimately won't back up Trump. I think that they'll use it as an opportunity to legitimise the court. The Republicans are very much of the mindset that the court is the most important thing. So they're scared that Democrats will pack the court. I think that they will use this as an opportunity to legitimise the court.
Well, because I don't know. Does it? At what point does it reach the Supreme Court? What you're saying is that if they are charged with making a decision on whether or not these absentee votes should be counted, they will. I mean, it's hard to imagine them not coming down again if that's what, if that's how it plays out, and if that's how it can play out. You can't quite imagine a Supreme Court saying no, we definitely won't be counting those votes.
Yeah,
because it's not a recount, is it? And again, sorry to jump in there, I'm just thinking out loud again. It was a recount last time with Gore Bush, and that's how the Supreme Court's intervention proved crucial. But this isn't a recount, this is the first count, so they can't.
Yeah.
repugnance, the idea that millions of people vote and then you don't count them.
Yeah, I think ultimately what the Republicans were most concerned about was getting Amy Coney Barrett in the other day.
Yes, of course.
And I think now that they've got her, they want to protect that supermajority that they've got. And I think that if they were to give Trump the support, I think it delegitimises the court and it incentivises the Democrats to pack the court. And sort of
okay. You've gone further down the road than I have. I mean, the prospect of the president always appoints Supreme Court judges that he is sympathetic towards, but I don't know. We need a little bit of expert analysis really on the role that the Supreme Court might play. Thank you, Daniel. Tom is in Leeds. Tom, what's going on?
If it's expert analysis you're after, mate, this is definitely an chair theory, so you're not going to find it here.
I think all calls today should begin with a sort of desperate, a chuckle of desperate laughter at the beginning. Manic is the word I'm looking for. Go on, no, don't worry, I won't be marking your homework, Tom. Go on.
Yeah, thank you, mate. Look, I find it, you can see the contortions that Donald Trump has managed to go through, and the fact that he has built this victimhood narrative for himself that aligns so brilliantly with, I think, a palpable and probably very real feeling in the American working class. I think you see it reflected here as well. That they feel sneered at by what you call the establishment and the media, and I think the fact that he comes out so strongly against
they're not sneered at, of course, but because it's people like Donald Trump and Dominic Raab who keep telling them that people like me are sneering at them. We're not at all. We're just surprised that people aren't as disgusted by his depravity as we are.
Yeah, I mean, you yourself have been on a bit of a journey, though, haven't you? In how you talk to people and how you debate with people. Not talk to people. Sorry, I'm maybe being a bit unfair there. I'm a fan of yours, and I was listening to you.
No, of course.
So this is not me marking your homework, mate.
But the idea that you know, in his new book, and it is simply not true. I wrote personally a whole book about why decent, honest, good people end up believing terrible things. But it's all right. There's a new one out now. I don't know if I've mentioned it, Tom. You want to get your hands on that one as well. But the victimhood narrative is the weirdest thing because, as you suggest, there's people who use the word snowflake all the time or who accuse others of taking offence. They spend their entire life feeling like victims and complaining about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a very odd contortion to see playing out. And I, like many people, not saw this coming, as I said to you before. This is an armchair theory, but you can. This is the one. This is the low-hanging fruit that he's going for, isn't it? He's banging on that victimhood drum in order to try and disenfranchise people. But I hope he would. Beyond hope that he'd be held to account for what he said, but I doubt it.
Who's going to hold him to account? Some of the media coverage finally sort of reflected the reality of what he did this morning, but it's far too little, far too late, and you know, even some of his previous cheerleaders suddenly waking up to the potential awfulness that he might commit next. It's too late. What about Britain, Tom? Briefly, what do we have to do? And there's so much on the table here. With regards to the future relationship between the country, really Dominic Raab should have roundly condemned Donald Trump or said, look, he's been up all night, maybe he's had too much coffee. I'm sure he'll withdraw or step away from this ludicrous position when he's calmed down a bit. But as it stands, the leader of the free world is expressing a desire to extinguish freedom.
Yeah, but I think politicians and the press probably feel like, well, look, we've got to work with him. He might get in, you know, and if he doesn't, then again, I don't think he'll be held to account because
funny, isn't it? We haven't cut off diplomatic relations with some of the vilest regimes on the planet. So.
Well, precisely that, mate. Exactly that. And I'm very much. I'm actually the left, sort of the centre left, and I don't feel inspired at all by Biden. In all honesty, you've got. You know, you imagine the excitement there was when someone like Tony Blair got into power, you know, and the feeling of change, or the feeling with Obama when someone got in, you know, for all their faults, you know, that subsequently came out.
Of course.
I don't feel there's anything to feel excited about in terms of leadership in politics here or there.
Just not Trump. Who's the appeal of Joe Biden for people on this side?
Position to be in there, mate. Do you know what I mean?
Of course I do. Yeah. I don't know what the option would have been, but you know, at least I suppose you could describe an absence of stardust or an absence of magic as being preferable to being possessed of visible and demonstrable negative traits, which was the choice we had in December between a rock and a hard place. This is at least between a rock and a soft place, if you like. But of course, the appeal of the soft place is simply the fact that it's not a rock. Might move on from that analogy now. Good work, Tom. Thank you very much. A couple of phone lines free for you now. 0345 6060973. Andy's in Hull. He says, I very much share your worldview. Your show is like a reassuring hug each day at the moment. But this time, well, it's same here actually, Andy. It's a two-way hug, although obviously this is metaphorical given the current requirements of social distancing. I'll give you a hug as long as you're wearing a mask. And he says, I've put £20 on Trump to win, as I want to at least get something out of an election. At the moment, I could win 60 quid, and if I do, it'll be off to a charity to help get kids out of cages. It's coming up to 10:29. How the hell has it come to this? I do not know. 0345 6060973 is the number you need to join in. The question in a way is the laziest